What if I told you that you can improve your relationships just based simply on the words that you speak? Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Rafael Negron, and on this channel, I'm going to help you develop your social skills and also develop a positive mindset on life. Now, recently I picked up this really amazing book called How to Win Friends and Influence People, and it's written by Dale Carnegie. This is probably one of the most famous books on this topic, so I figured how fun would it be and how cool would it be to make a video based on each of the different principles that he highlights in this book. So the first principle that we're going to learn about today is Principle 1, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Now this principle is really important. It really emphasizes the impact that negativity can have in the way that we deliver the words to different people around us. So whether the negativity come from condemnation or criticism or complaining, it's really going to hinder the connections that we can make either in our own personal life, let's say for friends or family, for example, or maybe professional connections like those found at work. So if you want to get ahead at work, or you really want to learn how to foster and maintain these long-term friendships and relationships, or if you even want to be an excellent mentor to those around you and be able to lift them up and encourage them, it's going to really pay to listen and learn how to effectively implement this principle in your day-to-day life. Now, before we continue any further, I want to give you a great example of a story, a personal story that I actually had happen to me at work. Well, actually, not to me, but actually the person that was sitting next to me. Now, as some of you may already know, I'm a software engineer. I have been for 7 years. And the way that we sit at work, it's an open floor plan, but everyone sits right next to each other. It's not like random desks scattered everywhere. And let me tell you about the story that happened. So there's a junior engineer, let's call him James, and then a more senior engineer, let's call him William. Now, James and William were both working on a feature together, let's call it. It was something that both of them were touching at the same time. And when I say touching, I mean they were both working on different parts of the project that interweaving times, different time zones, so on and so forth. And I remember one day, James sort of made a mistake in the process. Now, it wasn't anything that was customer impacting, so we didn't lose any money. No one was really too affected, but either way, it caused some annoyance for William, the senior engineer. So I remember William slowly making his way to James, who, if I hadn't already mentioned, sits right next to me. And William started talking to James, and he tells James, he says, hey, James, why did you do that? Why did you make that mistake? Something that he said to him that just blew my mind was, you're a fairly well compensated engineer to be making mistakes like this. Like, how can that happen? Please don't let that happen again. And then he started complaining, oh my God, always people are making mistakes like this. I can't believe it. And I just remember the look in James' face. I was looking at my desk. You can imagine I'm over here typing, just trying to get my work done, but I didn't have headphones on or anything, so I was able to hear the whole entire conversation. And I took a quick glance over at James, and I just saw, a sort of defeated look in his face. He was trying to be professional and saying thanks for the feedback, and I appreciate it. It won't happen again. And William just sort of walked away with nothing, not even a thank you. Actually, he kind of chuckled as he was walking away. Now, William is a very smart person, but in terms of being likable, I think he has a little bit of work that he can do. But think about how James felt, right? James must have been sitting there feeling defeated. Such a small mistake, it could have been communicated so much better. So that's exactly what I want to talk to you about, right? So William took the approach of condemnation, criticizing, complaining, and he did it in a public place. He didn't even bother to take James to a private area where they can have this discussion. Now think about how different it would have been if instead William came up to him and said, hey James, I noticed that you made this change. Is there anything that you need help with? Is there anything that I can help you better understand? I know that I should be doing a better job of writing documentation for this. I know that it's sort of difficult to be able to make changes here. So after we're done talking, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back to my desk, I'm going to write some documentation. And actually, can you look it over for me for some feedback? And then perhaps maybe William said, why don't we sit down and look at the change you made together? I know it caused some issues further down the line, but again, the documentation is really not there. So why don't I sit down with you and let me explain to you why this works the way it does. And then we'll go from there and we'll figure out how we can make it better. Think about how James would have felt in that instance, right? James would have probably felt relieved. He would have felt alive. He would have been more willing to work with William, right? So William might be the smartest person on the team, but at the end of the day, if you're not likable, people don't want to approach you, people don't want to work with you, it really doesn't matter. So just a frame of reference change, right? Don't condemn, don't criticize, don't complain. Making changes in these different ways that you approach people is going to have a long-lasting effect on the type of relationships that you have. Just imagine on one end of the spectrum, you have this person that you've completely just destroyed publicly. I mean, I would have, at least, if it were me, I would have said, hey, can we take this to a private room? And when I say me, I meant if I were James, the junior engineer, I would have said, can we talk about this elsewhere? Because he did it publicly, and to be fair, he even did it next to his manager. So that was not really the best scenario. So imagine how he felt in that moment. Obviously, you have to remain professional sometimes, and you just say, you know what, you're right. Thanks for the feedback. I'll get better. But if you flip it, right, if William instead thought about his words before he said them, tried to see it through a positive light, and see how he can reinforce positive behavior where possible, then James probably would have been, again, much more willing to work with him. He probably wouldn't have made the mistake again. And based on that conversation, he probably would have taken that newfound information that he just learned and he would have evangelized it across the team. Now you make the entire team better. You make everyone better, right? Instead of making one person worse, you make everyone better. The team culture gets better, the morale increases. It's a win win for everyone. So I just want to share that personal story to let you know what this sort of looks like and how you can begin implementing it. So let's continue doing some deeper dives and go over exactly what condemnation, criticizing, and complaining mean. Criticizing oftentimes puts people on the defensive and it damages their trust. Think about the last time you were criticized, whether it be by a friend, a family member, or even a peer. It probably put you really on the defensive. You probably were super sheltered, and your ego takes over, and you want to just backlash and tell that person, no, you don't know anything, I'm right, right? So instead of criticizing someone, think about how you can instead offer positive feedback, reward positive behavior where necessary and when you can, and see how far that takes you. Now let's go into condemnation. Condemnation is a really bad one. It can really make people feel unworthy. So instead of doing that, why don't you instead try to understand where they're coming from and put yourself in their shoes? Try to find common ground. A lot of times, and I see this a lot in my job, you have a senior engineer, someone that's been working for 5+ years and doing the same thing. And then you have a junior engineer, someone that's still very new to the job, maybe having 1 or 2 years under their belt. The senior engineer forgets what it's like to be a junior engineer. But if you really, really can, try to put yourself in the shoes of the junior engineer or whoever you're talking to, even if it's someone more senior than you, and try to see where they're coming from, understand their perspective. And in this way, it's going to help you communicate that much more effectively. Finally, complaining. We know a lot of people in our lives that are complainers. I'm a complainer at times, my family's a complainer at times, my best friends are complainers at times. Complaining just honestly sucks. Instead of complaining, try to find, again, common ground and try to move forward with practical solutions. At the end of the day, you're just going to waste time complaining and it's not going to get anyone anywhere. So just scrap that whole piece altogether and try to focus on finding practical solutions to the problem so that way it doesn't happen again and everyone else is just better for it. Okay, so we've gone over a personal story. We've also gone over the definition of each one of these different pillars, right? Condemnation, criticism, complaining. And we've also looked at some ways to flip it around and make it more effective in your day-to-day communication. Now let's go over some other tips that you can use in your day-to-day. And again, if you've watched some of my other videos, you know that we can progressively overload these social skills. So let's just go through some tips, and then based on this, you can see how easy it is to start incorporating it into your day-to-day. The first one is going to be pause before you speak. Before you even say anything, figure out if it's even constructive. My mom always told me growing up that if you have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. And that couldn't be more true. Really, really, really think about what it is you're about to tell this person. Oftentimes, it's better not to say anything and just listen to them. But if you really want to say something, make sure it's constructive. You're not going to get anywhere by complaining or criticizing or condemning even in a public space. So again, pause before you think, make sure it's constructive, and if it is, go ahead. The second thing that you want to do is focus on solutions instead of problems. At the end of the day, if all you do is talk about problems, you're not going to get anywhere. It's not going to benefit you nor the person that you're trying to deliver the information to. So something else that you can do, just like tip number 1, where you pause before you speak, maybe before you even approach this person, just sit at your desk for a second, take some notes, maybe take some notes about the different solutions you want to offer. And that way, when you go up to this individual, you have a nice, clean, organized list of actionable steps. And using that information, you're going to be able to just better and more effectively communicate this. Again, just focus on solutions and not problems. And the funny thing is, in this same office, there used to be a poster. Sorry, I'm turning on my monitor just to give myself some more light. But there used to be this poster that said, focus on problems and not solutions. And I thought that was the funniest poster because whoever wrote that was just trying to make a joke. But absolutely do not follow that advice. I promise you it's not going to get you anywhere in social conversations. So again, just to recap on tip number 2, focus on solutions and not problems. Number three is practice gratitude and shift your mindset. Again, try to understand where this person's coming from. If they just started the role, you can't expect them to be experts at it already. Maybe think of yourself when you were in their same position. And in this way, you can find common ground, you can see where they're coming from, and again, you can better deliver this information, right? If it's someone that just started, then maybe think, okay, I don't have to be this harsh on them, or actually, you shouldn't even be harsh at all, but you can at least see where they're coming from. And even if it's someone that's more senior than you, sometimes the more senior you get, the more responsibility you have. There's so many different things you have to worry about. So they may have simply just forgotten. At the end of the day, it's probably not the end of the world if you really, really think about everything that's happened to you in a single day. This person forgetting this little thing, unless, if it lost the money, if it lost the company money or someone was hurt, perhaps that's a different story. But things tend to be not so dramatic. So if it's a small mistake, just instead shift your mindset, practice gratitude, try to level with them, and I promise you, you're going to be a lot better in these social interactions. And finally, use positive language to reinforce good behavior. Instead of doing, and nitpicking at every single thing that this person has done, just compliment them on the good things they've done. We as humans tend to have a negativity bias. There's a story I read once about a couple, and think about, for example, a partner comes home and their other partner, their spouse is at home cleaning, and instead of, the person coming in and saying, wow, thank you so much for doing the dishes or doing the laundry or cleaning, they instead said, you missed a spot. Like, imagine how that feels. Imagine how that would make you feel, right? So instead of looking at the negative and being nitpicky and telling them things they did wrong, encourage them to do well and praise them for the good things that they did. Maybe, for example, you can say, in this example with William and James, maybe William could have told James, hey, James, thanks for reaching out to me. I think that's really good that you're taking the time to learn more about this. There's some other people on the team that would have just taken it and not have said anything, or maybe they would have said they understood it, but in reality they didn't. So I think it's really cool that you went out of your way to approach me and learn more about it. And it's also a good opportunity for me to just remind myself of how this all works and explain it to someone. So again, there's a lot of different ways that you can frame this, a lot of different things that you can do, but hopefully these 4 steps right here, I have 4 twice. I don't mean 8, but 4. These 4 steps, or rather these 4 tips, are going to help you really practice this skill, or rather this principle from this book. And again, I know I say this over and over again, but just see where it takes you. Okay, so we've reached the end. I'm so excited that I was able to make this video, and I'm always trying new things. I'm still a small YouTuber, and I probably will be for a long time, but I think it's super fun that I'm able to do this. It's a very nice creative outlet from my day-to-day, especially mostly sitting behind a computer and typing away all day. That's actually one of the reasons I made this channel, because I really enjoy talking, and I feel like what better way to talk than to make a YouTube channel. So anyway, today we went through the first principle of the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. If you haven't already picked up this book, I highly recommend it. I'm only on the first chapter, but I feel like I've learned so much, and I'm so excited to continue learning. Now, if you think that this is the last of these videos, then you're super, super wrong. I promise you that for each one of these different principles, we're going to continue diving into this, and we're going to learn so much more about it. So just as a little bit of a sneak peek, I actually have a bookmark here on the next chapter, and the next chapter is called The Big Secret of Dealing with People. So I have no idea what that chapter is about or a principle I'm going to learn, but you can bet that I'm going to make a video about it, and it's going to be in a very similar style to this one. So if you like this type of content, if you like what you saw, you want to continue learning about these principles. And by the way, I plan on getting some other books that are not just this one. Like, I found another book, I forgot the author, but it's called Emotional Intelligence, where I'll probably do something similar. But if you like this style of content, you want to improve your social skills, you want to develop a positive mindset, then be sure to like my video, subscribe to me, ring that notification bell so you always know when I'm posting new videos. And that's going to put you on the right path, so that way we're always engaging and we can build up a community here. And that's about it. So until next time, I'll see you all around. And again, I really hope you all enjoyed the video, and hope you guys all take care of yourselves. Later.